Rabbi Yisai, I want to share with you a secret about Eretz Yisrael which is mamish mind-boggling. A few secrets. The pasuk in our parasha says, Perek Yud Gimel pasuk Aleph, Vayal Avrom mimitzrayim. Avram Avinu comes back to Eretz Yisrael. Is this the first Aliyah? Vayal Avrom mimitzrayim. Who? Veishtoi. Is this his first time visiting Eretz Yisrael? Second time. Comes the Agra de Pirka. That's the Bnei Yisroel. And in his Agra de Pirka he writes, there is a greater maila, greater virtue, for a person who is in Eretz Yisrael, leaves Eretz Yisrael, and then decides to come back to Eretz Yisrael. He will taste in Eretz Yisrael a greater level of Kedusha the second time around, more so than the first time around. And that's why Avraham Avinu became so great, and that's why the person says, Vayal. Vayal. He rose, he went higher and higher now because he came in the second time. Sefer Em Abanim Smeicha brings a raya to this Agra de Pirka from Sefer HaCharedim. In the Sefer HaCharedim, in Mitzvos Etluyos Ba'aretz, writes that we found in the Medrash that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Avraham, the first time around, I want you to go to Eretz Yisrael. I want you to see it and come back. And after he came back, he didn't give him permission to go there again for 5 years. And because of that, Avraham Avinu had such yearning, burning desire to go into Eretz Yisrael. So much so that Avraham Avinu said a pasuk that appears in Tehillim, Mi'iten li ever kayoina, a'ufa ve'eshkona, hine archik nedod, alin bamidbar sela. Let me sleep in the desert. And Chazal darshan this pasuk to me, and Avraham Avinu said, I would rather, and it's better for every one of us, to sleep in the deserts of Eretz Yisrael than in a hotel, the fanciest five-star hotel in Chutz La'aretz. He had such a desire to come to Eretz Yisrael until finally HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him permission. Says the Em Abanim Semecha, somebody who's always here can't appreciate it. Maybe he was going to take it for granted. But when you leave, then you understand what you had. And you want to have that great feeling again. And when you come back the second time around, you have a greater appreciation, and therefore you have a greater Kedusha that is attached to you. Vayal Avram. If anyone knows somebody who tried to make Aliyah and it didn't work the first time around, tell him this. Publicize this. It's mamish unbelievable. Try again. And if you do, you have a greater level of Kedusha. So we cannot get used to the fact that we are the luckiest ones who get to sit here. There's a famous Rashi that everybody knows. Appears twice in Chumash Dvarim. Ve'ayu kechadashim be'enecha. Rashi darshans this on the pasuk Hayoim. The Torah is given to you today. What do you mean today? It wasn't today. It was many years ago. But Divrei Torah should always be new in your eyes, as if you just received them today. Everybody knows this about Torah. But the same Rashi writes the same thing about the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Rashi in Parshas Boy. The pasuk says, Ve'aya ki aviyacha. Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to bring you to the land. Unetana lach. He will give this land to you. Perek Yud Gimel pasuk Yud Aleph. Says Rashi. Unetana lach. He's going to give it to you. Teheh be'enecha. It should be in your eyes. Ke'ilu netana lecha bo bayom. As if you got it today. Ve'al tehi be'enecha ki yerushas avos. Don't view it as if it's, this is my inheritance. It's my mishpacha many years. Today I got it. It's a gift from the king himself today, which means every single morning. When you wake up and you open the shutter, look at this, how gorgeous! Look, I am zeichet to be in Eretz Yisrael! You have to be excited every single time anew. We all know that, but Divrei Torah, Rashi says the same thing, it's the same Rashi about Eretz Yisrael. With that, maybe we don't have to leave Eretz Yisrael in order to get that appreciation of Kedusha. If we have that, maybe we'll be on the high level that the Em Abanim Smecha is discussing, Sefer HaCharedim is discussing, the Agra de Pirka is discussing, coming second time around. You don't need to live.
Why does Chazal give this as an extra reason? It gives the reasons the person can leave Eretz Yisrael, but I'm not to find a shidduch to learn Torah.
Because it shouldn't be a good reason. Sometimes it happens that you get used to things. Chazal is saying, don't get used to it. If I'm going to give you a permission, that means by definition, get used to it and leave. Why should you leave second time only? Third and fourth and fifth time. Chas v'sholom. The Tzitz Eliezer has a long kuntras in Chelek Zayin Simin Mem Ches about Yishuv Eretz Yisrael with some amazing insights. He concludes this whole big essay with the words of the Chesed LeAvraham. The Chesed LeAvraham is the grandfather of the Chidah, the big Mekubal about 450 years ago. And he writes, and in the end of days, speedily, Imit Hashem in our days, when the people from the Galus will come together with Melech HaMashiach to Eretz Yisrael, they will see their brothers and sisters that have been transformed to spiritual beings flying in the air, learning Torah from the mouth of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the people from Chutz La'aretz are going to be very upset with Melech HaMashiach, and they're going to yell at him. What are we, second-class citizens? Why are we staying in our physical form? And our brothers and sisters have been transformed to spiritual beings. Melech HaMashiach will tell them, you know that everything that Hashem does is measure for measure. That's how He conducts His world. Your brothers and sisters that left Galus and weren't afraid to be captured by enemies on the way, to drown in the ocean. They weren't afraid to lose their possessions. They weren't afraid of any bodily harm. They were not afraid. They showed that spirituality matters to them at most. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, oh yeah? Spirituality? That's what you're most interested in? I'm going to turn you into a spiritual being. But Melech HaMashiach will also tell them, you that you stayed behind. Because you showed that the most important thing to you was Outzius, Gashmius, physical matters. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, okay, no problem. Midah keneged midah for you as well. And we'll keep you in your physical form. Pile pile pile. Chesed le'avrom brings us. The Tzitz Eliezer quotes him in Chelek Zayin Simin Memches. We're going to share more Chesed le'avrom now. Not less surprising. On Shabbos, we all know we get in the Neshama Yisera, right? In a few hours, all of us are going to get in the Neshama Yisera. Great. There is another option for a Neshama, but not a Neshama Yisera. You can actually get a new Neshama and get rid of your old one. Ever hear of a Neshama exchange? I want a new Neshama, I want to get rid of the old one. Comes the Chesed le'avrom. Chesed le'avrom tells us everything goes on upstairs. It's a big mekubal. He says a person who lives in Chutz La'aretz has a nefesh from Oilam Ha'asiyah. When he comes into Eretz Yisrael, that first night that he sleeps in Eretz Yisrael, he gets a neshama from Oilam HaYetzira. Both neshamos go upstairs, and only the new neshama comes down. He gets a new neshama. That is the secret of the pasuk in Yeshaya Membeis pasuk Hey, Noisen neshama la'am aleha. When you come into my land, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to give you a new neshama. And that's why he explains what the Gemara says in Ksubis, that one who lives in Eretz Yisrael, Ksubis Kufi Dalef Amud Aleph, the Gemara says one who lives in Eretz Yisrael, he doesn't have any sins. Of course not. He has a new neshama. He's like a new baby. He has a new entity. All the sins are associated with the old neshama. They're not here anymore. And he says, anyone who lives in Eretz Yisrael is called a tzaddik. But you see, he's not. He's doing things which we would give him another title. It says the Chesed le'avrom. But the pasuk says that if you don't behave in this land accordingly, I'm going to spit you out. As long as the land did not spit the person out, he's called a tzaddik. Obviously, he doesn't mean that you have the permission to be a serial killer, driving on Yom Kippur that falls on Shabbos to the beach while eating shrimps. He's not saying that. Because obviously you have to do tshuva. That doesn't work. And people ultimately were expelled from this land. But many people who sit in this land are tinokas shenishbu, or oinus, or whatever it is. Chesed le'avrom calls them tzaddikim because the proof of the land didn't kick them out. But if a person made aliyah, and after a little while he said, nah, it's not for me, and with no oinus associated with it, he just doesn't feel like it, he decides to leave. The day that he gets to the border on his way out, they give him back his old neshama and they take back the new one. Chesed le'avrom, Rabbi say. It doesn't end here. And the Shekhinah yells at him, what flaw did you find in me that you distance yourself from me? And the Shekhinah curses him and pursues him. And he says, we have seen with our own eyes rich people that came to Eretz Yisrael and decided to leave. It's not for me. They lost all their possessions and they had all kinds of tzaros, and he says, we seen it, not other people. But he says, this is from the curses of the Shekhinah. But he says the reverse is also true. We saw people that come to Eretz Yisrael and they accept the fact that they're in the land of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Duchta de Moshe ve'Aaron lo zachu, a place that Aaron and Moshe were not zachet to come in, and they have the schus, and they are so happy. And if they have all kinds of diseases in Chutz La'aretz, they will be healed. And even if they decide to dwell in an apartment the size of your car, it's viewed in their eyes as a luxury, gigantic estate in Chutz La'aretz, because the way you treat Eretz Yisrael is the way Eretz Yisrael is going to treat you. And if you are happy with this place, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to show you what Simcha is all about and bestow all the brachos on you. If Chalila, you're not, we said what happens with that. It's mamish frightening. And if you say, how is it possible? The same land will show a happy face to someone and will show as if a sad face to another, and it will curse you. Says, what are you surprised? The Gemara says in Sukkah Nun Beis Amud Aleph a similar idea about Yetzer Hara. At the end of days, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will shech the Yetzer Hara. To the tzaddikim, it will be viewed as a gigantic mountain. They say, wow, how were we able to pass this? And to the Rishaim, Yetzer Hara will be viewed as a thin thread. Because the tzaddik was so afraid of every single Aveira. Chalila, not to transgress. So every Aveira looked at for him as like a gigantic mountain. The Rasha, who couldn't care less, Aveira, another Aveira, another, have plenty of them already. What's the difference? So it looked at them, it looked to the Rishaim as a thin thread. So the same thing, the same Yetzer Hara, the same sin, depends on your perspective on things, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu cooperates with you. And again, it's a whole idea is midah keneged midah, and according to the way you view Eretz Yisrael is the way Eretz Yisrael as if is going to treat you. The Baal HaPele Yoetz, we mentioned him before, wrote many svarim, and one of his svarim is called Oiros Eilim, and in page 150 over there he writes, since we see the unbelievable milos and schusim of Eretz Yisrael, Gemara Ksubis Kuf Yud Beis, so many, how many chashivus and chavivus do Chazal give to Eretz Yisrael, and therefore he says, everyone should use any excuse in the world to run to Eretz Yisrael like a deer. Ratz katzvi, that's the language that he uses, and he should not worry, not about you losing his money or any of his possessions, and not even about the love that he has to his kids. His kids want to stay in Chutz La'aretz. He said, ignore it. Ki hakol ke'ayin neged chibas Eretz Yisrael. Nothing comes close and nothing compares to the love that one has to have to the love to Eretz Yisrael. The pasuk says before, the pasuk says, Kum yisalech ba'aretz. I want you to start walking here. Le'orka u'le'oroch ba. And Chazal say, Ksubis Kuf Yud Aleph, anyone who walks in Eretz Yisrael for Amos is assured, muftach lo shehu ben ha'olam haba. Any nafkabina lahalacha from what seems to be divrei agada? Good, it's nice, very nice. Chazal appreciate Eretz Yisrael for Amos. Nafkamina today, lemaise to us from this divrei agada. Normally divrei agada or divrei agada. Halacha is here, agada is here, and they don't touch each other. But sometimes we do find, and we shared in the past many times, that divrei agada have nafkamina lahalocha. Can it be? Yes, it can. Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Simin Ramach, Reish Mem Ches, Seif Dalet, Shulchan Aruch says, you want to embark on a journey. You can't embark on a journey going to the desert on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday if you know you're going to have to violate Shabbos. Because nobody's going to want to stop for you and wait for you. You don't go by yourself. You go with a whole big group. And they're not going to want to stop for 25 hours because you're Shomer Shabbos, so you're not allowed to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you're allowed to leave the house. And if something happens later and there's some kind of a sakana, pikuach nefesh, you need to stop, that's fine. You're allowed to stop. That's generally when you're going, you embark on a journey. But, says the Shulchan Aruch, one who wants to come to Eretz Yisrael, ha'oyle le'eretz Yisrael, if he has a shayara, he has a group, carrying of people going, even on Friday he can. Why? Because it's a mitzvah to live in this land. And you have to tell the group, listen, on Shabbos I don't stop. And if the Maaseh, they're not going to want to stop, comes Friday afternoon and they say, no, we're going to continue. You're allowed to continue with them.
In the beginning they agree?
In the beginning you tell them, listen, I'm going to stop on Shabbos. That's it, you start traveling.
They have to agree.
Lecha, you poisek imayim, you tell them, I'm going to stop. And then push comes to Shabbos, we're not stopping. Comes the Magen Avraham and says, When the Shulchan Aruch says, Ve'ha'oyle le'eretz Yisroel, the first opinion in the Magen Avraham is, when you come to do the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisroel, continues the Magen Avraham and says, Ve'yesh oimrim, that even if you come to visit, because every 4 amos that you'll take in this land is a mitzvah. The Machzis Shekel points us to this Gemara on Ksubis Kuf Yud Aleph. That's the source of the Magen Avraham. Mimele, this Divrei Agada, that every 4 amos is a mitzvah, allows you to do something that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. You're allowed to go with a group on Friday to leave. Why? Because it's a mitzvah every 4 amos, according to this opinion. Regarding these every 4 amos, the world says, some people say, mistakenly, that you need 4 new amos. There is no source to that. You don't need 4 new amos. Sometimes Gedolim were quoted when they were forced to go on a different route or for a different reason. They said, oh, no, I have 4 new amos. Because of the Chavivus of Eretz Yisrael. That's not a halachic source. There is no halachic source to that. Reb Chaim Kanevsky says, Dalet amos means Dalet amos, which means one is allowed to live a very simple life. From his house in the morning to the shul, to Beis HaMedrash, to come back to the house every single time, 1,000 times the same 4 amos, and for every 4 amos, the same gigantic mitzvah that ensures him a place in the world to come.